Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Doya Koro More Chaitanya Prabhu Toma Vina Ke Doyalo Jagata Samsare Patita Pavana Eto Tava Avatara Patita Pavana Eto Tava Avatara Patita Pavana Hetu Tava Avatara Patita Pavana Osama Tita Prabhu Napaibe Ara Osama Tita Prabhu Ha ha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Ha ha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Ha ha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Nityananda Ananda Kripa Bala Anakara Ami Boro Duki Kripa Bala Anakara Ami Boro Daya Koro Sitapati Advaita Gosai Advaita Gosai Tava Kripa Vole Pai Chaitanya Nitai Ole Pai Chaitanya Nitai Aha Soho Sanatana Rupa Raghunatha Bhata Yoga Shri Jiva Prabhu Lokanatha Shri Jiva Prabhu Lokanatha Jaya Kara Sri Acharya Prabhu Srinivasa Jaya Kara Acharya Prabhu Srinivasa Ramachandra Sangamage Narottama Dasa Ramachandra Sangamage Narottama Dasa Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Karamare Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Karamare Toma Vina Ke Dayalo Jagata Samsare Toma Vina Ke Dayalo Jagata Samsare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Oh Premanande Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Gundica Marjana ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Too many cameras, yeah. Can you? Did they have to be so close? I can hardly see you. That's a good idea. I think the other one's a better idea. You can't see me. So today is the festival of Gundica Marjana. and literally meaning the cleansing of the Gundica temple. Gundica is the name of the temple in Puri, a temple in Puri. It is about 2 or 3, maybe 2 or 3 kilometers from the main temple of Lord Jagannath. If you have the good fortune to go to Jagannath Puri, you will see there's a very large temple in the center of the city. Sri Kshetra, Jagannath temple, very famous. All over India, practically people know of this temple and of Jagannath Puri. But they may not have heard of the Gundica temple. They will have heard of it if they are familiar with the Jagannath Ratha Yatra. Tomorrow is the Ratha Yatra in Puri. It's the Ratha Yatra in a few places in ISKCON. And the day before this Ratha Yatra festival, where Lord Jagannath goes from his temple to this other temple called Gundica Mandir. This temple represents Vrindavan. As far as I understand, it is named after the wife of Indradumna, the king who established the temple of the deities, the temple of Jagannath, the original temple, not the one now. And that temple, Lord Jagannath stays for 1 week, just 1 week? Yeah, just over a week. And then there will be a return Ratha Yatra from the temple of Gundica back to his normal temple. We only do the one-way Ratha Yatra. Some countries, they do the two-way. They do actually follow the system in Jagannath Puri, but not many in ISKCON. So today is the day when they cleanse the temple of Gundica. And so there's a very wonderful pastime in the Chaitanya Charitamrita which describes this pastime. We will read some of it. Not allowed to read all because of time. You can read it if you wish, but the chapter does not only deal with the cleansing of the temple, but the main subject matter is the cleansing of the temple. And unfortunately, I did not pass a message as to a verse. Nobody asked me anyway. But we will just recite the first verse of this chapter. Chapter 12, if you want to follow, of the Madhya Lila. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 12. And we'll read the first verse, then we will go forward to the pastime. Shri Gundica Mandiram Atma Vindai Samajayam Kshalan Shalanataks Gora Vachita Vachitalam Ujjalam Cha Krishna Paveshopayikam Chakara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the Gundica temple with his devotees and associates. In this way, he made it as cool and bright as his own heart. And thus, he made the temple a befitting place for Lord Sri Krishna to sit. That was text 1 of the 12th chapter. That's just introducing the subject. And then we'll go forward to, where will we go forward to? Yes. To text number, I think 79 of the first chapter. What has happened is that Lord Chaitanya has asked for permission from the king of Orissa to indirectly to cleanse the temple himself. He's requested permission. And the caretaker of the temple has said that this is not a service befitting you. But if you so desire, let it be. And the caretaker of the temple provided all the facilities for the Lord, all the brooms, helpers, and so on. So the next day, this is 2 days before Rath Yatra, then on this day, in the morning, early, the Lord took his personal associates, this is text 79, with him, and with his own hand, he smeared sandalwood pulp on their bodies. He then gave each devotee a broom with his own hand, and taking all of them personally with him, the Lord went to Gundica. In this way, the Lord and his associates went to cleanse the Gundica temple. At first, they cleansed the temple with the brooms. You brush the temple. Now, when you brush or cleanse the temple, the process is you start the higher parts first. Even when you clean a building, you should start high up because the dust will come down. Of course, it may go up, but then it comes down. Otherwise, if you do it the other way around, the tendency is it will again make the floor dirty. So they started cleansing the temple. Everything inside the temple very nicely, including the ceiling. He then took up the sitting place, Singhasana, is the Lord's sitting place, and he cleansed it and again put it in its original place. Thus the Lord and his companions cleansed and swept all the temple buildings. And what do you call of the deities, what do you call them? Not the domes, what are they called?
The arch.
Huh?
The arch.
Anyway, whatever they are, above the deities, they cleansed everything. Thus the Lord and his companions cleansed and swept all the temple buildings, big and small, and finally cleansed the area between the temple and the kirtan hall. Indeed, hundreds of devotees were engaged in cleansing all around the temple, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally carrying out the operation just to instruct others. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the temple in great jubilation, chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna all the time. When we were younger, you could say, in body, and it was a common practice in the temple that everybody would clean together and everyone would sing together, following in the footsteps of this example shown by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Similarly, all the devotees were also chanting and at the same time performing their respective duties. And this was a common practice. No matter what service you were performing, you would chant Hare Krishna. I noticed yesterday a rare example. Midday Arti yesterday, Madhavendra Puri Prabhu was offering Arti and he was singing along with the Kirtan. That was a standard for all pujaris. They would sing, not just wave items, but they would sing Hare Krishna if there was a Kirtan going on. And every service, cooking, cleansing, even I can't seem to do it anymore. I've lost my taste. But even when I'd be answering mail on the internet, I'd be chanting the whole time. I don't seem to do that now. Good meditation. The entire beautiful body of the Lord was covered with dust and dirt. In this way it became transcendently beautiful. At times when cleansing the temple, the Lord shed tears, and in some places he even cleansed with those tears. After this, the place where the deity's food was kept, called the Bhoga Mandir, was cleansed. Then the yard, that means the outside area, was cleansed. And then all the residential quarters, one after the other. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu collected all the straw, dust, and grains of sand in one place, he gathered it all in his cloth and threw it outside. They didn't have brushes and pans in those days. He collected it in his own cloth. Following the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees in great jubilation began to gather straws and dust with their own clothes and throw them outside the temple. The Lord then told the devotees, "I can tell how much you have labored and how well you have cleansed the temple, simply by seeing all the straw and dust that you have collected outside." He would look at it. They would take it outside, put it in a pile, and he would see who has collected the most. Like Sankirtana, kind of Sankirtan. And sometimes we clean, but we don't clean very well. And maybe some excuses are there, but the real factor is the more we cleanse, and so we'll see this whole pastime is a comparative to cleansing our hearts. We tend to clean what we can see. We have to go further. There are so many little, just like in this room, if we really want to clean, right here behind Bhagavat, there is a radiator. And sometimes, maybe the devotees are cleansing it now, but I've sometimes in the past gathered more dirt from that radiator than from the whole floor. Devotees cleanse the whole floor, then not touch that, and then you go there, and you get more dirt out of the radiator, stuck between it or underneath it, than from the whole floor. And so many other places, underneath something, behind something. You'd be amazed how much dirt accumulates. What to speak of our hearts. So many dirty things are there, not just what we can see, not even just our apparent tendencies, but the aparabdas, those which are not seen. We have to clean deep down the very causes of our behavior and our unwanted reactions to situations, etc. We have to go deep. Krishna consciousness is a deep process. It's not just another surface activity. Even though all the devotees, we're back to the book, 91. Even though all the devotees collected dirt in one pile, the dirt collected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was much greater. He was cleansing so strong. What can we say? Lord Chaitanya is the leader of the devotees. He's the supreme personality. He's whatever. He's no one. We just follow in his footsteps. We're tiny little but we give everything we can. After the inside of the temple was cleansed, the Lord again allotted areas for the devotees to cleanse. Once was not enough. The Lord then ordered everyone to cleanse the inside of the temple very perfectly by taking the finer dust, the straws and the grains of sand, and throwing them outside, the very finer ones. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the devotees cleansed the temple for the second time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see the cleansing work. Krishna consciousness is basically a cleansing movement. It's all about cleaning. Within, without, around. We clean our hearts, we clean our bodies, we clean our clothes, we clean the temple, we clean around, and we clean the environment. It's a cleansing process. All forms of cleansing. One devotee, one of my godbrothers named Kulashekar Prabhu, when he joined, first devotee to join in London, Kulashekar. 1969, he got initiated by Srila Prabhupada in George Harrison's estate. So he was very a devotee. He liked to do things nicely. Prabhupada gave him an instruction. He said, if you learn nothing else in this movement, be clean. Learn to clean nicely, he said. Keep everything clean. And he was always very clean. And he loved to do things very nicely, clean the brass perfectly. Prabhupada said, cleaning the brass means you're cleaning your heart. That means the deity's brass. It should be sparkling, shining clean all the time. Some temples you go to, you do not even know if it's brass. It's so dark, it's so brown, dull. That means our heart is dull. Things should be cleansed. Our rooms sometimes. Some devotees, they do what they're told and they cleanse the temple nicely. You go to their room and, please forgive the statement, but in English we call it a pigsty. If you know what that term means, you can guess if you don't. It's such a mess. Such a mess. Clothes everywhere. Such a mess. Not washed and cleansed. Our room should be cleansed, including the toilet, by the way. Everything should be cleaned. As much as possible daily, but not necessarily possible. But everything should be kept clean. Clothing, neat and tidy also. Not just clean, but neat and tidy. And if we see some garbage, throw some more, right? That must be the garbage dump. Everyone's throwing their rubbish on the path outside. I guess that's what we do with our rubbish. Just throw it on the path. No, you pick it up and put it where it's meant to be, in the bin. In the West we have bins. Because we have so much inorganic matter. Plastic, tins, bottles, you name it. And whereas in past times there wasn't much inorganic matter. They didn't have plastic. Maybe there was some, but not much. Mostly it was wood and straw and maybe some metals. But even natural metals are also, in one sense, they're organic. Now we have all these artificial aluminium and so on. Anyway, you got the point. So try to be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. Pick things up, put them in the bin. This way, we attract Krishna's attention. You're cleansing what belongs to him. Everything, not just the temple, the world, the universe belongs to him. Srila Prabhupada would sometimes teach us, even in the public, to do things we wouldn't think of, like turn off taps. he didn't like to see anywhere in Krishna's kingdom anything wasted, or, of course we can't spend our whole life doing these things, but the principle is there. At least the temple, our room, our body, everything, our clothes should be neat, clean, and tidy. As much, not just as much, it should be. It's not just as much as possible. It should be. Practically, Prabhupada said, cleanliness, we hear this saying very often, cleanliness is next to godliness. And I heard one time he said it is godliness. I don't know if it was ever recorded. He said it is godliness. It's not just next to it, it is godliness. You cannot be godly without being clean. They don't go together. The Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the devotees cleansed the temple for a second time. We probably have heard this, that the gopis, one of their main activities is cleansing. And everything looks perfectly clean, but they're still cleaning. Maybe it looks perfectly clean to us, but it can never be clean enough. They always want it to be cleaner and cleaner. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see the cleansing work. While the temple was being swept, about 100 men stood ready with filled water pots, and they simply awaited the Lord's order to throw the water from them. They had different systems. Temples were made of stone. We can't imitate that here. Our temple here is made of wood, and so many electronic things are here and different items. It's not the same. If the whole temple was made of marble or stone, then this particular pastime now is very appropriate. But the principle is still the same. We may wash with some cloth. As soon as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called for water, all the men immediately brought the 100 water pots, which were completely filled, and delivered them to the Lord. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first washed the main temple, and then thoroughly washed the ceiling, the walls, the floor, the sitting place, and everything else within the room. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself and his devotees began to throw water onto the ceiling. You don't get a hose, you can't reach it with throwing it. Get a hose. That would not be very practical in our situation here. You have electric lights and so many things. And anyway, you can understand. In this way, where are we? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees began to wash the sitting place of Lord Jagannath with his own, no, Lord Chaitanya began to wash the sitting place of Lord Jagannath with his own hands. That means where Lord Jagannath would come to sit during that week. And all the devotees began to bring water to the Lord. All the devotees within the temple began to wash. Each and one of them had a broom in his hand, and in this way they cleansed the temple of the Lord. They would throw water with a broom, then they wouldn't use a mop like we do. They use a broom and they kind of like broom it out, the water. Still in India you see this. Someone brought water to pour into the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We're going to skip this section. No, a little bit. We'll move on a little bit to text number 104. The Lord mopped the rooms with his own clothes, and he polished the throne with them also. In this way, all the rooms were cleansed with 100 water pots. After the rooms had been cleansed, the minds of the devotees were all clean as the rooms. And you will experience that. When you cleanse with all your hearts and as thoroughly as you can, you will feel very cleansed within. It's a fact. It's not just a theory. The same when one absorbs oneself in kirtan, in chanting, one feels, you can feel it, you can feel this kind of sublime, cleansed feeling within your heart. Saying when we're cleaning, of course they're all chanting at the same time, by the way, as we heard earlier. They're not just brushing and sweeping and mopping or whatever we do. They are also chanting at the same time. Jiva Goswami says that this, when we chant alongside our services, this helps to reduce the tendency for our false ego to start to come into play and think that I'm doing it, and think no one else is doing it, I'm only doing it, they're lazy. All kinds of horrible thoughts come into our minds. I don't like this. All kinds of things. In other words, we're saying, I don't want to serve Krishna. So when we chant at the same time, it helps to reduce that tendency of the false ego, which wants to see things separately from Krishna. It helps us to see it in relationship with Krishna when we chant. Of course, there's much, you could say it may take time, and it's only to help to evoke that change of heart, and it will, depending on the sincerity and our you could say, faith and so on. But this is the process. They all chanted. When the temple was cleansed, it was purified, cool, and pleasing, just as if the Lord's own pure mind had appeared. The spiritual world is pure. There is no, when we say pure, it doesn't just mean clean from the external, it means internally clean. There is no envy. No envy. Even though different devotees have different services and they may not associate particularly because they have a different perspective and a different bhav, a different emotion, etc. But there is no envy between devotees. Even between other living entities who do not have human forms, there is no envy. There is no greed for love of devotion, yes. All these other characteristics you will find in their pure state. Greed and lust, even sometimes anger is there as a secondary emotion or a secondary bhava to enhance the spirit of the primary ones. It's like a little spice in a sabji. Yeah? It can make it even tastier. A little salt. Without salt, it's not very tasty. What have we got for lunch today? Salt. What is salt and pepper? You will not be very inspired to take lunch. What have we got for lunch today? Salt and rice, but there's no rice and potatoes, but there's no salt and pepper. There's no salt in the potatoes. There's no salt in the rice. It's tasteless, right? Practically. There has to be a little bit of that there to make it very tasty. Yeah? So these other secondary, you could say, you think, well, there's a room for anger in the spiritual world, but it enhances the taste of the primary. The primary factor in a meal is not the salt and the pepper. It's the vegetables, the rice, the dal, the chapatis, whatever it is, something or another. But it's not the spices. But they enhance the taste. Huh? They make it very attractive. You want more. Yesterday, a very nice prasadam was cooked. Very nice. Mayapur Chandra Prabhu. And I don't know what happened, but I felt like I was tasting sweet and sour sabji. I mixed everything together, Mayavadi. I mixed the salad, the rice, everything in one. I don't take sweet, so I mixed the whole thing together. And I don't know what it was, but it tasted like sweet and sour. It put me back 55 years ago when I would go to the Chinese restaurant and get the sweet and sour, vegetable prep. It was really very nice prasadam. It made it they enhanced each other, and it made a very nice preparation like that. So like that, the variety, spiritual world is full of variety. And there is these secondary factors are there, but there is no envy. Envy, you could say indirectly, is there that this devotee is doing better than I am. I wish I could serve Krishna as pleasingly as they are. But it's not envious of the person. You know, that type of envy doesn't exist. Since hundreds of men were engaged in bringing water from the lake, there was no place to stand on the banks. Consequently, someone began to draw water from a well. Hundreds of devotees brought water in pots, and hundreds took the empty pots away to fill them up again. Again and again they were bringing water. It wasn't just once off. With the exception of Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Swarup Damodar, Brahmananda Bharati, and Paramananda Puri, everyone was engaged in filling the water pots and bringing them there. Many of the water pots were broken when people collided with one another, and hundreds of men had to bring new water pots to fill. Some people were filling the pots, and others were washing the rooms, but everyone was engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna and Hari. Hare Krishna! Chant as you clean, chant as you cut, chant as you wash, chant as you bathe. Prabhupada has written, you can chant Hare Krishna in the storeroom. You can chant Hare Krishna in the bathroom. You can chant Hare Krishna everywhere, while you sleep, while you eat. Use the art of chanting while you eat. Don't try to imitate it unless you know the art. It'll make a big mess everywhere. And while you sleep, of course, that's not something you can necessarily practice. But the more we practice chanting during the day, there will be a better chance of chanting while you sleep. Sometimes you hear devotees in their sleep, they're not even aware of it. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. They go back. The holy name comes out. Sometimes in your dreams you will chant Hare Krishna or Srimad Bhagavatam or the devotional service or some great devotee or Krishna himself in your dreams. Some people were filling the pots and others were washing the rooms, but everyone was chanting. One person begged for a water pot by chanting the holy names, Krishna, Krishna, if they wanted anything. And another delivered a pot while chanting, Krishna, Krishna. They didn't ask for a pot, they just said, Krishna, Krishna. Automatically you knew they wanted a pot. And to give you one, they said, Krishna, Krishna. Whenever anyone had to speak, he did so by uttering the holy name of Krishna. Because we're not perhaps on that level. You're in the kitchen, the cook says, Krishna, Krishna. And you say back, Krishna, Krishna. But you may not know what he wants, and you may not give him what he wants either. And it may not be Krishna, Krishna in the next sentence, it'll be something else. We're not quite on that level. But you can get the idea that Krishna is in the center of everything we do. Whenever anyone had to speak, he did so by uttering the holy name of Krishna. Consequently, the holy name of Krishna became an indication for everyone who wanted something. So we do want something when we chant Krishna, Krishna, isn't it? Hare Krishna, we want something. What do you want? Service to Krishna at our stage, we want service. We may not think like that, and when we're asked to do service, we say, no, I'm too busy chanting. I've got other things to do. I'm tired. Someone else can do it. Why are you asking me? We immediately boom back. That means we're not chanting Hare Krishna, really. The letters are coming out, but we're not actually associating. If you love somebody and they say, can you do something, you don't do it, that means you have no love for them. We don't love them. We may associate them for our own purposes. We may get some pleasure out of being with them, but that's not love. Love means we put aside my idea of being an enjoyer, and we dedicate ourselves to satisfying that person. That's love, at least in a practical way. It goes deeper. So we're calling, Krishna, please engage me in your service. Oh, that's nice. Please do this. No. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Can you please come with... No, I'm busy. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Our mind, think about it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was vibrating the holy name of Krishna in ecstatic love. He himself was performing the work of hundreds of men. It appeared that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were cleansing and washing with 100 hands. He approached every devotee just to teach him how to work. I was in one temple one time, and you could not get on the roster to do service. There was a waiting list. Devotees were asking, please, can I do service? That was the mood. When I joined, that was the mood. It wasn't like someone had to come and ask you. You would go and ask for service. Temple commander didn't have a very difficult task. His difficult task was to engage everybody. Now it's a difficult task to engage anybody. In many cases, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. I served yesterday, and you're asking me again today? I went to Mangalarti, isn't that enough? That's 30 minutes service, come on. I chanted my rounds, come on. We're supposed to be doing 24 hours service a day. That's devotional service. What form it takes, that's a detail. We're not here to do our own thing. Isn't it? Is that right or wrong? We may still have that tendency, but that's not where we're here to change that tendency. The whole Krishna conscious movement is to change that tendency of doing what I want. We don't even know who we are, so what is the meaning of what I want? It's what my conditional illusion perceives. The false ego wants. Like a prisoner, he wants to get out to carry on robbing people. A prisoner, a criminal. He wants to get out of jail so he can again rob people. We're denying ourselves the golden opportunity for eternal bliss, if that's on our minds, by trying to get some temporary relief, some temporary sense enjoyment, some temporary justification for my own illusion. But that's not what Krishna consciousness movement's for. In the beginning, there's bound to be that element, but we have to understand that the process of changing is right here in this pastime, cleansing our hearts. Cheto Darpana Marjana. I was talking to Giri Raj Maharaj maybe, 2 years ago, I think, in London. I can't remember. I think it was last year or the year before. And what I was saying, I said, Maharaj, how to really, still after so many years, there's still upcoming desires are there. What's your advice? He just said one line, Cheto Darpana Marjana. Cleanse the heart. Cheto Darpana Marjana. And the process is Sankirtan. And that includes all the various services which go along with it. It's not just the chanting is going along all the time. That's supposed to be always there. The other services are also essential. Serving those devotees who are pure in heart is the process of developing the attraction to chanting the holy name. That we haven't got time to go into. When Lord Chaitanya saw someone doing nicely, the Lord praised him, but if he saw that someone was not working to his satisfaction, he immediately chastised that person, not bearing him any grudge. Lord Chaitanya would chastise if you weren't cleaning nicely or properly with all your heart. The Lord would say, "You have done well. Please teach this to others so that they may act in the same way." As soon as they heard Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say this, everyone became ashamed. Thus the devotees began to work with great attention. They washed the Jagamohan area and then the place where food was kept. All other places were also washed. In this way the meeting place was washed, the entire yard, the raised sitting places, the kitchen, and every other room. Sometimes you open a door and it's like the garbage room. Everyone throws all their rubbish in there. Sometimes the room where the brushes and pans are kept is filthy. There's garbage in there, dust all over the place. That has to be cleansed, more than anywhere practically. And some rooms, all the junk is in there. It's a junk room. You see many times the junk room. You know this word, junk? Junk, you know what it means? Bijoy, tell us what junk means.
Everything people don't want to look at.
Yeah.
A few years.
Yeah. All the old stuff, you know. Stuff you don't know what to do with. You don't want. You just like throw it in this room and close the door, you know. And it just, you can't even get in there after a while. It's just full of things.
Is it also what we call junk food? The very bad food?
Well, yeah, that's junk is the same, rubbish.
Yeah.
Rubbish food, useless stuff. And we got so much junk in our hearts as well, haven't we? Yes. So much junk. Thus, all places around the temple were thoroughly washed within and without. We're going to jump over because these verses deal with the Bengali brahmachari who wanted to drink the water which had washed Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet. Nice idea. A wonderful point, but we'll jump over it to text number 131. The Lord then personally sat down after all the cleansing was done in the middle and picked up all kinds of straw, grains, and sand and dirty things. He sat amongst all the devotees who were in lines with their collections of dirt. It's like you go on Sankirtan, you have a collection of Lakshmi maybe, and he sat down amongst all the devotees. Sometimes Prabhupada would do that. He would be very happy. The devotees would come back and Prabhupada would personally count the Lakshmi with the devotees. He did that on a few occasions. While Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was picking up the straws and grains of sand, he said, "I shall gather everyone's collection, and I shall ask whoever has collected less that all of the others, has collected less than all the others to pay a fine." You have to pay a fine, but it's not like an ordinary fine. It's a fine of sweet cakes and sweet rice. It's a nice fine. You have to give everyone sweet rice and sweet cakes to make up for it. But don't use that as an excuse, you know. And don't do very much and just bring everyone sweet rice and sweet cakes and say, "I'm paying one." It's nice, but it's not the real point. In this way, all the quarters of the Gundica temple were completely cleansed and cleared. All quarters were cool and spotless like one's cleansed and pacified mind. It's so wonderful. I mean, when you're really covered in dirt, like Madan Gopal, sometimes he has to work in the gardens and trees and dirt and dust. You come back and you take a full bath, a nice cleansing bath, and your clothes get put on clean clothes. You feel very fresh. You feel very nice. Huh? So like that, when we immerse ourselves in this mood, it's like the whole heart becomes transformed. When the water from the different rooms was finally let out through the halls, it had appeared as if new rivers were rushing out to meet the waters of the ocean. Our hearts, our very being, rushing out to enter into the ocean of pure devotional service. Outside the gateway of the temple, all the roads were also cleansed, and no one could tell exactly how all this was done. The process of devotional service is imperceptible. Simply by rendering devotional service, the more unalloyed or unmotivated the service becomes, the more ahoitikia pratiyata constant service, unmotivated, uninterrupted service, the more that that is happening, imperceptibly the heart becomes cleansed of all what? It becomes cleansed of all material desires. Anyabilasita shunyam jnana kamadhyanavitam. Freed of all of the motivations. I wish we had time to read the whole purport. It's a long purport. We'll just briefly mention some of it. The whole point is to remove. And there are so many straws and dust, grains of sand, dirty things within our consciousness which need to be cleansed out, brushed out, washed out, swept out, and thrown out, never to come back again. One of the reasons Lord Chaitanya swept and washed outside, to make sure that those grains of dust will not come back in again. So the outside or surrounding is also clean. It's a practical example. In other words, we keep ourselves in a situation where the dirty, another association, keep ourselves in good association so the dirty things do not come back in again. Criticisms, gossip, negative thoughts, mundane thoughts, doubts, impersonal perspectives, sense gratification. So many different factors are mentioned in this particular purport. It's not just cleansing the heart, being like an elephant. Prabhupada gives the example in this purport of the elephant bathing, cleansing. The elephant gets into the water and cleanses its whole body, and then it may go outside and roll in the dirt again straight away, and its whole body is again covered. So we may chant our rounds and then go straight into bad association. Or whether it's within our minds, we start to think of mundane things, or we may associate with mundane things on our internet. One devotee was saying to me yesterday, he's very happy here because where he's staying there's no internet. He said when he's in his home, he doesn't live here, but when he's in his home, he has a tendency to spend much of his day wasting his day on the internet. And much of that pollutes your consciousness. There is so much rubbish, junk on the internet, in amongst devotees also. WhatsApp is almost, in many cases, is nothing but junk. Back and forth, How are you? Fine, here's I'm now eating samosas, a picture of samosas. It's not complete rubbish. And you spend an hour and a half just going back and forth on nothing.
What scrap?
What scrap, exactly. It's incredible what people do. They can spend hours, and then when there's no time left for chanting and hearing and serving. I got no time, I'm so busy. Busy doing what? Finding faults in others. In relishing, hearing negativity about other devotees. True or not true? What good is it? I didn't read it yesterday. There was a nice post about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I don't know if I have my mobile here, but a very nice post. He said one of the most detrimental things in our spiritual life is to talk about other devotees when you don't need to. You don't talk about their... I'd like to read it. I don't know if we've got a mobile. My mobile's here or not? I don't know. Is it in my pocket? Yes, it is. I can't... it has to be spoken properly. Let me see if technology is on our side today. Yesterday it wasn't so favorable. Yes, why? Airplane mode is off. On. Airplane mode. Don't have your airplane mode. Oh my goodness, I'm going mad here now. 300 new messages. Fantastic. That will keep me busy all day long. And now I have something to do. Only 168, 172, 176, 179, and there's some I haven't even bothered opening down there for the last 6 months. There's 179 at the top of the page there. Fantastic. Let's see. We wake up in the morning immediately. You have to look at your messages, right? Before you even turn the light on. You turn the mobile on. Any new messages? Great. Fantastic. Here we go. Da-da-da-da. Talking without reason. Talking without reason about other people is extremely adverse to devotional service. Many people talk about others to establish their own reputation or your own position or opinion. Nothing to do beneficial for the other person, not even for your own benefit. Being envious, some people are accustomed to discuss others' character. God, probably he's such a dude, you know. And if you talk like that, sometimes. Just for the sake of it. The minds of those who are busy in such topics can never be fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna. Talking about others should be rejected in all respects. Unless you have a duty to help that person, you're talking how to help them. What is the point of talking? Or if talking about them encourages you to do better service, it has to be positive. But simply to talk for the sake or to belittle that person, to make them, is a detrimental process. And you will never be able to remember Krishna like that. Devotional service is blocked. It's another anartha which can block us. This prajalpa, as was being talked about, is an aspect of prajalpa. If a devotee wants at all to cleanse his heart, he must chant and hear the glories of the Lord, Sri Krishna. That's how we should engage our tongue. Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj asked his disciples to chant 64 rounds of japa. How many rounds can we struggle with? 16, right? And this directive, it was mainly for his grihasta disciples, not his sannyasis. He said they're already fully engaged in service. They have nothing else to do but serve. But grihastas have other things to do. So he gave them 64 rounds. One of his grihasta disciples came to him and said, Guru Maharaj, I haven't got time to chant 64 rounds. I'm married, I'm working. Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj said to him, I know how much time you have. You have so much time for gossip, but you have no time to chant. I give you 64 rounds to try to eradicate the tendency you have for gossip. So much time spent gossiping. He knew they weren't all chanting 64 rounds, but he wanted, in fact, he even said, anyway, that's another topic. But the idea was to keep fully engaged and not to throw dirt over ourselves in the process of devotional service. Prabhupada would say, whenever you get a spare moment, chant Hare Krishna. You can hear him say it sometimes. Keep engaged. Don't. Idle mind is the devil's workshop. That's a famous saying, still there. The idle mind is the devil's workshop. And that's one thing. We've already got, these tendencies within us. But then, maybe we do cleanse ourselves. Then we go into a situation again, we expose ourselves to the same dirt. And our heart starts to become negative again. It's what can we say? It's the whole topic of our Krishna consciousness movement. Is there. Then Prabhupada also goes into quite an extensive description of various specifics, such as kutinati. What is kutinati? Who knows what kutinati is?
All details.
Pardon?
All details.
What was that?
Small details.
Small details, it could be, but here specifically, what does it mean? Fault finding. Finding faults. Now, faults may be there, but we have to see our own faults first. When Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj was asked one time by one disciple, should we use anger against those who are envious of Krishna? He said, yes, you should. But you have to look and see first who is envious of Krishna. And when I look at my own heart, I find no one more than I who am envious than Krishna. I am envious. So we use anger against our own inner envy. like that. He used it in many cases. Look at when thoughts in others delude and bewilder you, look within. Find out your own situation. Don't point the finger at others. It's the example of the needle criticizing the sieve. You know the sieve? It's one of these things you sieve the grains through, to get all the stones out, It's got thousands of holes in it. And the needle, which has one. No, the other way around, isn't it? The sieve. The sieve is criticizing the needle. Ha! You've got a hole in you. Look at you. The sieve has nothing but holes. We have so many faults. Let's face it. We speak a lot of philosophy, but what about our application in our own hearts? That's the main purpose. This to cleanse our own hearts, not everyone else's. We can't do much for others. And Lord Chaitanya was showing he himself was doing the most. Doesn't need to clean. But he himself was showing the most. Huh? What is pratishta? That you may have heard many times. Pratishta. So kutinati, this fault-finding, gossiping tendency. And there's too much of this on the internet, on the WhatsApp, on the social media. Far too much. And the tendency is because of our conditioning, we are attracted to it. We almost like to see somebody getting put down, rightly or wrongly. It's kind of a form of sense gratification. What is pratishta?
Wanting to look.
Yeah, you want to be important, huh? You want this desire for name and fame, recognition. We have all got a bit of that, I'm sure. I certainly do.
A little question. There is a place in the Chaitanya Charitamrita where it's described this is the weeds, right?
These are various weeds.
And there's a verse that says that these weeds who grow with the creeper of bhakti, sometimes they look exactly like the bhakti.
They do indeed. Yes.
Where is that? Do you know where that is?
Do you remember, Bhagavat, where that discussion is there? Where the weeds grow alongside the Bhaktilata creeper. They look very similar. You can hardly identify it. Even during Lord Chaitanya's time, the great devotees of the Lord could not recognize them sometimes. Some of them are obvious, but the subtle ones are not. And sometimes devotees would come, or persons, maybe, devotee may not be the right term, would come to Puri. There was one famous example of someone called Ramdas. And everyone thought he was a great devotee. He was always chanting. But he was a Mayavadi inside. Looked great on the outside. Everyone thought, oh, he's a great devotee. They were thinking, but he'd come to Lord Chaitanya. Swarup Damodar rejected him. He could see that the motivation was not at all devotion. It was impersonal, in fact. Others would write various glorifications of the Lord, which sounded wonderful, but Swarup Damodar would reject them because he could see that they were rasa basa. They were not favorable for the actual mood of pure devotional service. They appeared like, again and again these situations are there. We may not be able to recognize. Thank you for that question. We should look that up and find out where that is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's a very significant thing. It's fascinating. The last few days, the potatoes are growing in the garden down the bottom there, but more than potatoes, weeds are growing. There are at least 20 times more weeds than there are potato plants down there. You can't see the potatoes for weeds. The thistles, these spiky ones, they grow real fast. So I don't know, rightly or wrongly, but I spend about an hour a day pulling them out by the root, out of the ground, these thistles, one after the other.
They have to be plowed in.
Eventually, or what?
The best thing is to plow them in.
That means you have to plow all the potatoes in as well. How do you do that?
No, not with the potatoes. That's the best method.
Yeah, but the potatoes are growing amongst them. What do we do?
No, you can plow
later when the, yeah, but do they not? It seems like where they're growing, they're strangling the potatoes. The potatoes are, they're like 10 times higher than the potatoes are not growing. What do you do? It's like a weed patch, you know. I don't know. I mean, I'm just doing what my inner heart's telling. Pull these guys out. Let the potatoes get some air. Let them get some light. Let them not be, you know, down below, some nourishment. I don't know, but that's just what it said. But we have to pluck these weeds out. That's the point of it. They are there, and they will stifle our Bhakti-lata Bij. They have to be pulled out. But how to recognize them sometimes? They are recognized in the association of devotees. They are recognized by prayer, by sincere prayer. My Lord, please. We can appeal to the Lord if we don't see them to please. You know all my faults. You know all my faults. Please help me to rectify this. If you were here yesterday, we sang quite a few songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur during the morning. And he's giving us this hint of recognition of these faults or these weeds and the methodology of removal of the weeds. Very wonderful experience, you could say. So look that up and find it. So we're just one or two more here mentioned. Nishidhachara, that's not so famous one, I think. Nishidhachara. That means accepting things which are forbidden in the scripture. And again, we were hearing the other day from Bhagavat about accepting that which is favorable and rejecting that which is unfavorable. We do not know. We have to find that out from authority, what is favorable and unfavorable, and reject that which is unfavorable if we want to progress. Jiva Hingsa, what is that? That may be well known. Jiva Hingsa. Violence. Huh? Or not just violence, but envy. Not just the external manifestation, but the internal envy of anybody. Even speaking ill of anyone. You see, Srila Prabhupada sometimes mentions names because you have to. But generally you don't. You mention the fault, not the faulter, so to speak. Hate the sin, not the sinner, as Jesus said. You're not envious of the person. You're not angry with the person, but you may be angry with their activity because it's detrimental or displeasing to God and detrimental for them. But not the person. You love the person. You want to save the person. They're Krishna's part and parcel. And karma. I would hope everyone knows what karma means. What is karma? Lust. Desire. It's not. Lust is sometimes just thought of a sexual inclination. It's not. It's a desire for material gain. Prabhupada described primarily that is a desire for economic development. So it can be there. Inordinate, unnecessary desire for economic development. Economic development has to be there, but not more than necessary. Some people can't give up. They're right to the day they die, they're trying to accumulate. These are weeds which can strangle the Bhakti-lata Bij. And kutinati. What is kutinati? Excuse me? Kutinati. Yes, it's fault finding. Well, it's mentioned twice here. Fault finding, and it also means, it's funny, it comes up twice, so that means it's really serious. And its other meaning is duplicity. And this is the root, practically speaking. Seeing oneself, speaking one thing and feeling another or meaning another. And that's basically our whole existence in this world. Separate. We've separated. Even we speak some philosophy, we've got some other intention. It's all related. Or we're not really applying it ourselves. It's duplicitous. Telling others to do it and not applying it ourselves. And one last one here is puja. Puja. It's very, very similar, you could say, to pratishta. Yeah. Puja. It perhaps goes a little bit further than pratishta. Puja. Prabhupada takes it to the point, he says, eventually you want to be seen as an avatar. I am an avatar. I am God. Many people have this. Huh? It's not just about being recognized for your conditional qualities, your mundane knowledge, your beauty, or whatever you think you've got. But the very idea that I am the center of everything.
I'm God's gift to mankind.
I'm God's gift to mankind. In fact, I'm everything. I'm not just a gift, I am the gift also. I am everything. I am mankind. I am the gift. I am the universe. I am everything. I am the center of all that be. Worship me. We heard yesterday how Bhaktivinoda dealt with one such person, Bishika Shane, last night if you were here. How Bhaktivinoda Thakur dealt with Bishika Shane, who thought, or at least he was trying to convince people he was God, he was Mahavishnu himself. And thousands of people were worshipping him. Bhaktivinoda eventually had him imprisoned, locked up in prison, because he was imitator. What did Krishna do to Pondraka?
Killed him.
Yes, he killed him. No. Yeah. How did he kill him?
He cut his head off.
Sliced his head off with his disc.
And sent it to Varanasi.
Kasi?
It was Kashi.
That was the king of Kasi.
Yes.
Yes. The king of Kasi was a supporter of Pondraka, who also then went on the war path against Krishna, and Krishna sliced his head off with his disc and sent his head flying into his city of Kashi.
In this mood, what is the meaning of Sudarshan in Sudarshan Chakra?
Sudarshan, very auspicious darshan, most auspicious. The Lord's chakra is most auspicious. Darshan. If you have your head cut off by the Sudarshan, you're very lucky. If you see the Sudarshan coming, you're out of here. Yes, I read something, I can't remember what it was now, something which followed on with that for a devotee. How Sudarshan appears for a devotee. Forgotten.
By the way, here is in commentary of Madhya 19th chapter 159 purport about these unwanted creepers that look exactly like.
There we have it. 19th.
It's 19th chapter of Madhya Lila.
Don't think that's in this one.
159th verse, purport.
19:159.
Yes, purport.
Purport, thank you. 19:159. 1959, you can remember it like that. 1959.
159.
Oh, 159. 19th chapter.
Yes.
159. Madhya. There you go. Make a note.
Purport.
Hare Krishna. So let us try to please the Lord, and most of all, the Lord is pleased when He sees us seriously taking this on board and cleansing our hearts. And then the heart becomes a suitable place for the Lord to reveal Himself.
And also the next verse.
And the next verse, 160. That's a little easier to remember.
It's also in the verse itself. If one doesn't distinguish between the bhakti creeper and other creepers, the sprinkling of water is misused because the other creepers are nourished while the bhakti creeper is curtailed.
This is the teachings to Rupa or Sanatan? Probably. I think it's Rupa, isn't it? I think it's in Rupa Goswami's Siksha. Rupa Goswami Siksha. Rupa Goswami Siksha.
Yes.
Brilliant, wonderful, fantastic. So we're another type of cleansing. We're going out onto the streets of Tours to cleanse the streets, or the people of Tours today. If anyone wants to join us, please bring your bicycles. We don't have many cars, so start early, okay? I don't know if we have enough transport, but let's see.
Which text did you start with today? With this, before we go?
Madhya Lila chapter, well, I started with the very first verse, but then I bounced on. Number, what was it? Number 79, I think, wasn't it? First verse I read, I think it was 79. Yeah, they're about 79, 80, something like that. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gundica Marjana ki jai, Gaur Premanande.